When is it too late to make a big change in your life, particularly in your career? That is the question Don and we are going to jump into. So, Don, welcome to the Interstate. You're making big changes in your career, and you have been since, well, you've just always been someone that was looking to change and grow. But especially in your late 50s, early 60s, you decided to embark on an entirely new career path. So, I want to talk to you. What led you to wanting to become a business coach and a farm and land coach when a lot of people are thinking about retirement?
Midlife crisis. I don't know if that's
Oh, there you
true.
go.
After, rather than buying a Corvette or something like that, or a different breed of cattle, we jumped into this. But actually, the big story of it behind it is after several years of watching myself fail and other people succeed and back vice versa, it was time to give back and say, oh, we've got this experience base. There's a lot of people that really want to do different things, but they just may not quite know how to tip that iceberg or quite how to do it. And I've got over 30 years of experience in the real estate world, cattle world, farming world. I thought it's probably time, maybe it's a good time to give back, because there's a lot of questions that I wished I could ask somebody, but I had nobody to go to. So I had to be self-taught. And when I was self-taught, there's a lot of errors that you make in that
Right,
ladder as you progress.
right. So you actually started on this journey. As you mentioned, you have decades of experience in real estate with a specialty in farm and land and ag land. But you also have, I believe, even longer experience working with cattle, even more
Yes,
decades,
absolutely.
right?
Grew
Yeah.
up on the farm with
And
cattle.
And it was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was around 4 years ago, 5 years ago, where you decided that you wanted to give back in that manner of truly refining the skills, getting the education, and becoming a coach that could distill your experiences into becoming a business coach as well as a coach that specializes in real estate and agriculture and farmland.
Well, I needed to relearn the wheel in regard to how to communicate that, Bridget,
Mhm.
because even though you may have the knowledge base from your successes and failures, there's a way to communicate it where people will understand and appreciate that information. So that's why I got back into all the training again for business coaching, real estate coaching, and all of that, because I needed to be
Right.
able to convey it. I didn't know how to convey the information that people asked in a meaningful form. So that's why I went through all
Mhm.
that training once again. I kind of had it years ago, but needed the refresher just so that I knew how to tell people in their format how to understand. Otherwise, I would just ramble on and on and on, and that doesn't do anybody any good. I look at coaching as a mentorship that is specific to the point, and let's get something done.
Mhm. And yeah, and having action that leads to impact and preferably the desired outcome of your client. So you took this on you were in your late 50s, right? When you were like, "You know what? I'm grabbing this bull by the horns and I'm going to learn how to, as you said, learn the communication skills and how to assess and meet people where they are so that you can help them move to where they want to go." And that is at the same time still running your cattle operations, correct?
Yes, yeah. I'll never get rid of those. Those keep me sane on unique days. And they don't talk back.
Right.
They're happy to see you because they're usually wanting something to eat. And,
Right.
at night, that's what I do. I go out and I dink around outside because they're there. We don't watch
Mhm.
much TV at all. So what else is there to do but go out and play with cattle? And I
There you go.
enjoy that. That's my evening. But during the day, it's a different story because I'm focused on what needs to be done. What's really neat is a lot of some of our business clientele that we've had in the past were younger, just starting a business
Mhm.
and had a good idea, but there were some facets of it they just didn't know how to get through. How do I do this? Fine prime example. I had an individual that had a commercial business and he just couldn't figure out how his employees were leaving and he couldn't figure out why. And so we worked through that, and there were some nuances. Yes, there were some very good reasons why people were not staying. Well, we figured that out, what that cause was, and got rid of that problem, and all the other problems went away. but it was somebody that bought a new business and never had run a business or had employees before. And that was a challenge. Had another business, a small business that the income was relatively low to begin with, but it was really a nice idea business. Well, they didn't know how to handle the accounting, and it was a pretty simple fix because it's pretty straightforward. But
Right.
in business coaching, there's lead generation, there's the budget model, and there's the income model, which is all part of the economic model of that. All businesses are the same for all practical purposes. It's just what sector do you want to focus on? And that's what I think is fun because it's kind of a chess match in a way. Okay, if we do
Right.
this, what happens here? And it's my job to help think of all these other outside surrounding things and then land on something. Okay, yeah, let's temper with this piece and see what the result would be. But everything is always solvable. It's just a matter if we listen and look at it objectively. Yeah, and it all works out.
I think about your experience in land and farm in particular and real estate sales. At one point, I believe you were licensed in 5 states. Is that correct?
I still am. Yeah, I'm licensed in
You
5
still
states
are.
in the
Okay,
Midwest.
I wasn't totally sure. That was the next question. So you're licensed in Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, where else?
Kansas. Did you say Kansas?
Yeah,
Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska, and did we miss one? Let's
South
start
Dakota.
over. Nebraska. Let's go
Okay.
around the circle. Nebraska, South
Okay.
Dakota, Iowa, Missouri, and Kansas. We forgot
There you
Missouri.
go. We're missing
Yeah, that's Missouri.
Missouri. Okay. Um, so one of the reasons why you do that is you don't just list and sell any real estate. Your particular niche really is in land, agriculture, farm. So you will go to work with motivated and sometimes distressed owners of farms, and you would rather go to another state to help in that niche than to just be in the one state. So you've really expanded that footprint of where you go to work.
Well, there's people in all states that sometimes run into unique situations or challenges, and so they call us. And usually it's an attorney or a bank or a crop consultant or something like that that will reach out to us. Hey, can you come take a look? Now, keep in mind,
Hmm.
whenever I have to go to another area that's not local to me, I have to relearn the wheel.
Hmm.
Absolutely have to learn everything from soil type, water quality, water availability, what kind of crop programs are out there, or what crops can they plant, or what they may not be able to plant because of the environment. So by doing that in all those 5 different states, everywhere I go, I have to relearn the entire situation.
Hmm.
So that gave me an idea. We have a lot of real estate agents that want to dive into land or dip their toe in the land sale business. Well, that's where I like to help people because I have to do the same thing when I go to another location or geographic
Right.
area. It's no
Right.
different than in Omaha, Nebraska. Say, for example, if somebody wants to, there's some land on the outside of town. What kind of things can we do with that? We can farm it. Can we develop it? What do we need to do in order to get those steps through? What kind of zoning regulations do we have to look at? It's the very same thing in Kansas City or New York or I don't care where, Reno. It's the same theory, the same thought process. What do we need to know? And if you don't know, you need to find out. And
Right.
if you think you know, you better
You
double
better
check
confirm it.
again. You better
Right.
confirm and confirm and confirm because you can cause a lot of problems for your client if you do it incorrectly.
So, Don, your commitment and your passion around agriculture and farm land is clear. What do you think are the particular obstacles people are facing right now in that particular niche?
Well, for one thing, the crop prices have been low and the input costs haven't gone down. They've gone up rapidly. Equipment, fertilizer,
Mhm.
chemicals, anything, parts, labor has been really high. And the price of corn, beans, soybeans, and so your basic crops have not gone up. So it stressed the farm owner and the farmer because the margins are really tight to even negative. Farmers make money on volume and high prices. And, that's what feeds the world and they need that to continue. In the last couple of years, it's been a little bit tight, and so we've seen more financial distress than we
Mhm.
would normally see. Hopefully things change around and that gets better. But right now, weather plays a big role. Yes, we have irrigation all over the place, but nothing beats Mother Nature's natural rain. And especially in
Right.
dry land areas for grass, crops, pasture, that's really important.
Well, I want to shift gears a little bit because it's still remarkable to me that at a time when a lot of people start moving away from or reducing the amount of work they do, you have taken on in these last 5 years becoming that business coach and a coach working with realtors, particularly ones that want to specialize in land and farms. What keeps you going? So, what drives you where just have that fire to continue to learn, grow, refine your skills, and take on something new?
I don't want to get old. I don't want to get old and stale. I went to before the Zoom calls were predominant and everything. There's a certification called Accredited Land Consultant. I don't know how many. There's probably only 1,000 of us if that many in the entire United States. But I had to travel to Jacksonville. I flew to Chicago to take these classes to be accredited, and they were good classes. I mean, it wasn't like
Yes.
your basic college class where you won't retain, but there was everything from finance to 1031 exchange to soil types to timber, you name it. There was everything in there. And I really enjoyed that because it challenged me. It was like a college course, but it was all useful information that I had interest in, and even got into statistical analysis with cash on cash, and return on investment. Just several different things caught my attention, so I was always focused on that. I enjoyed that area, so I got more involved in the land world. And then education wise, once I had all that experience, both good and bad, keep in mind, not everything has been perfect in my world, but it's been okay. And I'm able to now share that with other people. And that's a joy. That's fun to see that light bulb come on. Because when you start a business or you're working with something in real estate, you hit a ceiling. You hit a natural ceiling that you just can't get through. And I enjoy helping break through that chaos in that ceiling
Hmm.
and go to the next level.
And I think you're right. I think I've heard that from some other guests as well. There's something that keeps you young about challenging yourself to continually learn and improve and gain skill, and stay up with technology. So there is something about that. There's anti-aging properties in challenging yourself and taking on new skills.
If I had to sit in my chair all day long and get home and I didn't have anything to do, life would be really boring. So getting up early, feeding cattle, my wife and we do chores every morning. And then I have a
Hmm.
radio show that I do every Tuesday morning. I have a radio show that I do, and I usually do it from outside in the feed bin or maybe from inside the tractor. Got to shut the tractor off so the sound
Hmm.
doesn't go. But the birds are chirping in the background. My dog sometimes is barking at birds, and the radio announcer just kind of has to laugh because he says, only when we call you will we hear different signs, and if we don't feed the cattle first, then they're bawling in the background too. So it's just like a real animal house about out here with everything going on that radio show in the morning. The activity keeps you young, keeps you vibrant, and keeps you happy. For me, that works for me.
Right.
I want to be busy. I want to be happy, and I like to work because I grew up as a kid doing chores, and I've never stopped. Well, I did for a couple of years because I had moved with my first job getting out of college. I didn't have animals then. But we all have our things. Some people like to golf, some people like music, some people like to go to plays, and that's great. We all have our different enjoyments in life. And I
Right.
choose to do chores in the morning and at night and work hard during the day because what else are we going to do? It's not fun just
Right.
to sit there and look at yourself.
That's right. Yeah. Wait, you don't want to just doom scroll on your phone for 9 hours a day?
No, no, I don't. No.
No, nor do I. All right. So we've got that in common. How do you keep your mindset strong in terms of taking on everything you do and continuing to improve yourself?
Well, that's a tough question, Bridget. I guess for me, I like to read books or the audio version. Over the past several years, that's kept me more stimulated than pretty much anything because there's always something to learn, and I get something new out of each book. that I use in my coaching practice because
Right.
it's valid and it's to the point. Now, sometimes go back to the old books that I've read because there's things in there that I forgot about and they do have value. And so every book has its own specific target, and that's fine. Sometimes it's for me, sometimes it's not. But if I didn't read it, I wouldn't know. And it keeps
Right.
me on a level of, I shouldn't call it intelligence, but it keeps me sharp by reading those books, gives me new ideas. And by doing that, I'm able to share that with my clients.
Good. You mentioned briefly that not everything that you touch is golden. So you've had some disappointments or some falls and failures along the way. Can you share a particular instance where things did not go the way that you anticipated and how you recuperated from that?
Oh, I've had several businesses that I've invested in that were startup businesses. I really wasn't in charge of it. I thought it was a good idea, so I invested in it. And then I obviously, you put $1 in and you get zero back. And so those were errors. I should have studied a little bit harder. I was in a leadership position that I was not really prepared for one time, and I failed miserably. And I don't know if it was my fault or not, but since I was in charge, it probably was. And it took me a while to get over that and to understand what would you have done differently? Rather than feeling sorry for myself for a year, I should have said, what can you do differently? Like the book, Bridget, we just talked about the book, Intelligence.
Positive
What was the
intelligence?
Positive Intelligence? If I had read Positive Intelligence at that point in time, that book,
Hmm?
it would have made a difference because I would have known how to handle the negativity, the challenges that were there because it was just nothing but a big snake's nest and I didn't know how to deal with it. Well, now I understand. After looking back, hindsight's always 2020. They always say that.
Right.
But because of that, once I got out of feeling sorry for myself, it made myself want to learn, okay, what would I have done different? How could I handle it? Because I'm not going to fail at this. I'm not part of it anymore, but I'm not going to fail in that avenue again. And even though it took a while for me to figure it out, if I could do it all over again, it'd be a completely different story. And we would have won that battle. We would have been a success.
Right.
But I didn't have that hindsight at that point in time. And it's the same thing in the land world. Say there's an agent that's never done land before, but they really like to dip their toes in it. What are the pitfalls that you might run into that you wouldn't really have to worry about if you worked with somebody that was in that business, whether you partnered with them or you coached with them or what have you? You can prevent some of those landmines that you might
Yes.
run into that can be very serious because land's a high dollar business, and the
Yes.
the liability, the exposure for not figuring out if there's a wetland, if there's a pipeline, if there's a tenant, or are there rules and regulations in that area that you cannot plant certain crops, or you only have so much water available to you. If you don't know that, you can really get yourself into a real pickle. And no
Right.
different than my business that I was not successful in managing at because I didn't ask the right questions, because I didn't have the people to go to talk to help me through that. And I tried to figure it out on my own. It caused major challenges. In the land deal, dipping your toes in land, yes, it's a wonderful idea. Absolutely wonderful idea to expand yourself, but do it the right way. Have somebody you can talk to that understands. Everybody talks big, okay? And one thing I've learned all my life, everybody's got these great ideas, and that one guy never makes a mistake. He's always right, and he plays that part. Well, I think if you would open the door behind the scenes, you would probably see that that's not always the case. Everybody puts up
Correct.
their show. Just be straightforward and say, I don't know, help. And people will help.
Yeah, they will. That is true. And I'd say that is critical. Expand if you desire, but expand with support, education, mentorship, and coaching to just make sure that you have the strongest start you can have in expanding into that specialty.
Mm.
Because you are right. Landmines is a good word for it, pun intended. I mean, that is rife with pitfalls, traps, and landmines if you do not know all of the nuances and the factors that need to be considered.
Well, a prime example, Bridget, would be Colorado. I used to be licensed in Colorado, but the reason I am not any longer is because the water rights are such a big deal. The contract may be a few pages, the purchase contract, but the water rights, you need an attorney and it's a book because the water rights are
Right.
so significant. And as you move further west, especially west of the mountains into California, Nevada, water is a big deal, a really
Right.
big deal. no matter whether you're building an acreage or you're farming or a vineyard or what have you, that water is the number one thing to look at right now. And if you don't, it can be disastrous in a transaction.
Well, Don, this has been really insightful. You're inspiring. I do agree with you. I had one guest say that learning new things and actually developing like another leg of your business or taking on more responsibility is a fountain of youth, and that it will keep you on your toes, keep you young, and keep you feeling like you have a purpose and an impact. So I think you're part of that same school of thought.
I
I
have a
really
lot of
appreciate
fun.
everything you shared today. And if you're listening to this episode of The Inner Estate, I hope you'll join us again for the next episode. Don, thanks again.
Thank you, Bridget.